Well, these live pictures from Abuja continue on our channels while the world now, continues on our other channels. So let's talk some more about Nigeria-Russia relations. And joining us is Global Affairs Analyst Adebayo Olowo-Ake. Thank you very much for joining us on the world now. Well, it's believed, of course, that Nigeria and Russia have come a long way. Give us a bit of backstory now, about the relations between these countries and the significance of this interaction that the foreign affairs ministers of both countries had just last week. If you can hear me, Mr. Olowo-Ake, I'm talking about the fact that Nigeria and Russia share quite a rich history. The relations date back to a long time ago. But talk to us about a bit of a backstory about these relations, and especially the significance of the discussion that Messrs. Lavrov and Tugar had in Moscow in the past week.
Thank you for having me. You're right to say that Nigeria and Russia have long-standing relations, and these relations have always been very, very cordial. In particular, those relations span the range of trade as well as security in particular, and also includes aspects of diplomacy. If we go back just to the recent past, the anti-apartheid struggle to liberate the countries of Southern Africa in the 90s, in the late 70s into the early 90s, in which Nigeria played a significant role, had the Russians providing weapons for the liberation movements, and Nigeria financing some of those liberation movements, and as well mobilizing diplomatically in support of their aspirations. Also, just before then, of course, the unfortunate Nigerian civil war, Russia had played a significant role, especially in backing the Nigerian Air Force and providing modern platforms at the time. If we move forward, we would also find out that at the end of the war, Nigeria's effort at industrialization, typified by the ambitious Ajaokuta steel plant, had significant Russian participation. In fact, the entire Ajaokuta complex was built by the Russians, and then, of course, on our return to democratic rule in 1999, we appeared to have gravitated more towards the West. But when we ran into trouble with the jihadi insurgencies that broke out in the northeastern part of Nigeria, the Western countries were not particularly enthused with selling us weapons, and Nigeria once again had to go back to Russia, especially to have the capability for our Air Force to fight at night with the acquisition of the Mi-35 helicopter gunships. Of course, we also saw a bit of a deterioration, it would appear, with the advent of the current Tinubu administration. Not much attention had been paid to Russia. I remember that with the inauguration of the president, there was almost immediately afterwards a Russia-Africa summit, where most African countries were represented at full presidential level, but Nigeria was not. And then we had the challenges close to our borders with the coups that occurred in Niger, and then to our northwest in Mali, and then further afield in the Sahel, Burkina Faso, and the gravitation of these countries towards Moscow. And it does appear as if that has galvanized us once again to recognizing the critical and strategic importance of Russia, especially since the gas pipeline, which was negotiated between Nigeria and some Western countries to provide Nigerian gas in lieu of the availability of Russian gas to some countries in Western Europe, saw us trying to send a pipeline through Niger Republic. And of course, Niger, as you know, is now under military rule, and all the challenges that has caused for relationship with ECOWAS and Nigeria So I think that all in all, it's been a robust relationship. It dips at different intervals, but it does appear as if finally Nigeria has recognized the strategic importance of ensuring that it maintains excellent relationship with Russia,
Indeed.
which is typified by the visit of Mr. Tuga.
Indeed, a rich history it is. And we know that Mr. Tuga has said that the discussions they've had actually lays the groundwork for future engagements and potential visits, including one by President Bola Tinubu to Moscow. How soon do you see that happen?
I think that will depend on bilateral agreement between both states, determining when is best suited for that visit to take place. But I think it's urgent, especially given the implications, like I said, of the deteriorating situation in relations with ECOWAS by those trio of states that are under military rule, and especially the gas pipeline that Nigeria has planned to go through Niger to Europe. So I think that trip is very important. From a security standpoint as well, it's also urgent in the sense that the Russians have never really sold those weapons with conditionalities, unlike some Western or Euro-Atlantic powers often do. So I think that the earlier President Tinubu can agree with his Russian counterpart, President Putin, to have that trip, the better for bilateral relations.
And do you see the Russia-Ukraine war have any impact on this relationship that we're trying to further strengthen?
Definitely, it has had an impact. For instance, Nigeria imported from Russia in 2021 a total of about $1.2 billion worth of goods. But with the imposition of sanctions on Russia, that dropped, to some $600 million in 2023. So that tells you straight away that the imposition of sanctions because of the Russia-Ukraine war also had some impact on us. Secondly, Nigeria has also been trying to acquire some military equipment from Russia, some advanced military equipment, which the sanctions have also affected. Those weapons or devices and platforms have not been consummated as a result of the sanctions. But I think that there are so many other areas in which Nigeria and Russia can engage that will not necessarily be impacted by those sanctions.
All right, then. Global Affairs Analyst Adebayo Olowo-Ake, thank you very much for joining us on World Now.
Thanks for having me.
We'll take a moment, and when we return, we have more updates for you, including on the